Click subscribe to get daily Manchester United content from passionate Reds, only on All for United.
Hello and welcome back to All for United's tactical preview, looking ahead to the Newcastle United versus Manchester United game at the weekend. I've got the tried and tested lineup. Consistency is key. Stu, Abdul, hope you're both well. Thank you very much for joining me.
Yeah, pleasure.
But yeah, football's back. I don't think my emotional range can convey my excitement very well, but I think we're all very excited for it. You know, we'll do shows, and we have done shows about the return of football. We won't talk about it too much. We're here to talk about the game. So, Stu, I'll ask you first. How important is it that we sort of hit the ground running against Newcastle? Probably one of the nicer teams to play right now.
Yeah, I think Ranić will be quite happy that it is Newcastle that we're playing. If you saw Newcastle versus City, I mean, I've never seen anything quite like that. Even playing in the lower leagues and semi-pro, I've just never seen anything like it. The miscommunication between Kieran Clark and Dubravka for the first goal was it was a playground. It was a comedy of errors that I've never seen. I mean, you're taught as little as 5 years old, one thing you do is clear the ball, and a centre half that doesn't come and clear a football when he got pretty much no one around him was, well, I'm lost for words on it, to be honest. I really am lost for words. It's just fucking doing my head in terms of, and Diaz, by the way. I mean, Diaz was that surprised. I think he almost missed it anyway because he kind of headed it centrally into the goal instead of, on normal occasions he would have put it to the side. So I think Diaz couldn't believe his luck. His eyes lit up. He was thinking about his 10 grand goal bonus. I think Diaz was. This is great. So. Although Newcastle have flashes of good possession in the first half, I don't think anyone can tell me that City got out of fourth gear. They had no, they weren't anywhere near first gear because they didn't need to be. And the worry for Newcastle, if you're a Newcastle fan at the moment, the worry for Newcastle is I would consider that a lot of the so-called better players, your Almirons and your what's his name? Sam Maximan. Sorry, I couldn't think of his name then for a minute. I think they're looking worried about the quality that they're playing with, and I think that plays into our hands perfectly. If Ranić, he might have to rest a few players. We don't know the ins and outs. I know, James, you've listened to to his press conference today. I know we've got a fully fit squad, but we don't know exactly how fit these are. So I'd be interested to see what type of line out he puts. But if we don't come away, and I'm sorry to say, with a 3 or 4-0 win, then I don't think it's a good day at the office. A 1-0 win puts us further up the league, agreed. But a 3 or 4-0 win, I think Ranić now needs a performance to go with the result.
I completely agree with you. Yeah, I completely agree with you. It brings me nicely on to my first question to you, Abdul. Appreciate you joining me, as I said at the start of the show. But, we've had a couple of 1-0 wins. One performance was more convincing than the other. How important do you think it is to really set a statement here against Newcastle? Or do you think, again, it's just about, while everything clicks into motion, it's just about getting results, not worrying too much about the performance and building that way?
No, can you hear me well?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Okay. No, I think you have to worry about the performances because the performances give you an indication of what's going to happen in the future, right? So when we were earlier in the season, when we had the win over the Leeds, the okay performance against Southampton, win over Newcastle, win over Wolves, we were saying the performances are not good, and this is going to lead to really bad results later on, and that's exactly what happened. And for any team, not just Man United, any team, if they're getting away with it for far too long, eventually the performances will catch up. So far we had an okay half under Ranić, and the rest of the performances haven't been really that good. The game against the Young Boys, I don't even register it because it was kind of a throwaway. He threw it, not threw it away, but just like It was literally that phrase where people used to make fun of Ollie for. It's like, go out there and just do what you can, kind of thing, you know, because it did not make sense at all, that performance. So I don't even take that one into account. But let's just focus on the league here, and they say Norwich and Crystal Palace. First 35 minutes of Crystal Palace was really good, very organized, very focused on what they wanted to do, and then the rest of it, you can say they got tired, they can say they reverted back to what they used to do before. And then Norwich game was just a carbon copy of everything that they used to do before. Yeah. So I can understand saying it will take him time to drill them into doing the things that that he wants them to do. But if that kept going for a longer time, like let's say Newcastle, we were okay. We're not that good, but we were okay. But after the Newcastle 2-3 more games and we're still okay, then you should be really worried that this is not improving. And I remember previously I said that whatever manager comes in after the summer that we've had, after the performances that we've had, it's going to take him a long time, because it's not about the performance per se. It's not about the names that you have on the team sheet. It's about who complements who, and can you get the team together to play together and function well together. And I think that's essentially the core problem that Man United have. It's not about the names or are these players talented or not. It's about, can these players form an 11 that completes each other? That's the biggest worry. For me, at least personally, I don't know about you guys, but this is what worries me. It's like, can he find a solution where the half of the team up front work together as a functional unit, and also provide the cover backwards when you don't have the ball, right? So yeah, that's basically my line of thinking in terms of performances.
Yeah, it's a very valid point. Well, I'll come to you, Stu, then. Talking of performances, I had a question. There we go. So, not two of the most convincing performances. Obviously, like Abdul said, that first 35 against Palace was what we probably want to be seeing for 90 minutes all season. But is there anything you picked out of those first two games that you thought really does need to improve to really click us into gear with Ranić, or is it more of sort of a collective amount of small issues, do you think?
No, well, I tend to agree with Abdul in terms of the first 30, 35 minutes against Palace was ideal, and anything after that, we just reverted to type. And this is the problem with a set of players that have been able to revert to type and play to type for such a long time. It's very, very easy to slip back into that. And I think Ranić has realised that there's so many things that need to improve within the team and the structure. And the way that we control a game of football, it's ridiculous. And that's what I can't ever get my head around when you're discussing professional footballers. I say this a lot and people look at me as if I'm nuts. But when you're dealing with players that are playing the game daily, and you're talking daily, in training, they're doing some kind of five-a-side combination. They're doing some kind of 2-3 touch passing drills, in a set squares, for example. And that should really translate into a game when you're playing at the highest level and you're an elite professional footballer and an elite athlete. And for some reason, we have seemed to have lost the ability of basics. And it just winds me up. I just cannot get my head around it. So there are times in a game of football, certainly in the second half against Crystal Palace, where we should have controlled the play a little bit better. Sometimes players have got to put their foot on the ball. There are times in a game of football you can put your foot on the ball and stop the play, because you have to stop momentum. You don't stop your own momentum. You've got to try and stop the opposition momentum. Getting hold of it. And if you've got to go back, go back. If you've got to go forward a yard, go forward a yard, receive it and put it to the side. You've got to be able to constantly think about where you are at any given time, at any second on the pitch, that you're able to receive the ball and what you can do with it. And nobody can tell me that our team, our group of players do that. They don't. They seem to have this rush of blood to the head. Fred, He's been better recently. There's absolutely no two ways about it. And so is McTominay. But normally when they get it, they're trying to release it, quickly. We've spoken about Bruno's problem where he is in the pitch at any one time. So he's having to go with the Hollywood passes a lot rather than, the 1-2 simple balls. And that is our biggest problem. And I'm pretty sure Ranić has been working on that through the analytics side. I know we've had the training ground closed for about a week, all in total. I'm not saying a week together, but all in total about a week. So the players are staggering themselves back. But these players, it's got nothing to do with their bank balances or what. It's all about application and attitude. And I talk about it all the time. I'm like a broken record with it, but it's true. If you can't apply what you're being told, make way for some fucker else who will apply, who can do what he's told. And so that's my biggest problem with it. And Ranić talks about control. Let's see if we've got control. Let's see with this time that he's had, what he's given them to look at, what he's given them to do when they've been at, when they've been at home. Let's see if they can get control of that game, take it by the scruff of the neck, strangle the fucking life out of Newcastle, and see what happens. I've probably gone around the houses there, James, but I hope you know what I was trying to get at.
Yeah, absolutely. Bit of a violent way of putting it, but I completely understand what you mean. Well, I want to shift to sort of personnel because I think we've only got half an hour due to Stu's.
Yeah, sorry.
Stu having a family, which is unacceptable.
Yeah, sorry.
For that.
The kids are really excited now. So we got grandparents and that coming around and that type of thing. So apologies for my.
That's all right.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's all right. But yeah, anyway, I want to get onto personnel because I'll bring a comment up, Abdul, because it fits in nicely with sort of what we've been talking about. It seems almost relentlessly for the last couple of weeks. And it's Martial. Now, the big news this week was that he wants to leave, given that all we've talked about, how he can really fit in with this system, how he could thrive under Ranić. Is it disappointing to you to see that he's now requested to leave the club?
Yeah, honestly. I like Martial as a player, what he offers. Obviously, I'm gonna get the he doesn't score goals comments out of it, but he provided much more than goals, really, and we have to, all of us together, we have to stop this idea of measuring footballers by goals and assists. Like if he doesn't have more goals than some certain other striker, then he's a bad player. No, you have to focus on the guy, what he offers. What should he be offering based on the attributes that he has? If he's giving you what he should be offering, then cool. If he's not, or if he's giving you at least, if he's not giving you what you think he should be, but he's giving you other things, then consider those other things. Are they important to the team or not? So we've talked about Martial before. It's he's not the guy that's going to make runs like Cavani and score the tapping goals. He's never going to be that guy because, unfortunately, he wasn't coached into him earlier. He still plays on his raw talent, and that's unfortunate for him and for someone like Marcus Rashford as well, because he is in the same predicament. But Marcus, he grew up depending on the runs in behind, and that's why he gets a lot more goals than him. Martial is all about tight space, close control, dribbling, and the finesse finish. He's not about awareness within the box. He hasn't really developed that yet. So what he offered, that was quality in possession, and unfortunately we really lack that big time. We really lack that big time in our team and in the forward line. They're all runners. Cavani is a runner. Cristiano Ronaldo is a runner in behind. Rashford is a runner in behind. None of them are quality in possession. Maybe the closest, the best one out of them is a bit is Cavani. But the others are really not good in possession. They're just finishers, basically. Marcus, give me a ball all over the top, I'll finish the attack. Cristiano, crosses, I'll finish with headers, and also a run in behind, I'll finish the attack. Or a cross in the box, I will finish it with feet, hand, shoulder. He'll finish with anything. He's a great finisher like that. So where is your in possession players come from? It only comes from Sancho right now as a forward. That's like a forward line player. We only have Sancho. Lingard is the same thing. I know he's leaving, but assuming that he stays till the end of the season and Martial leaves, Lingard isn't like an in possession guy. He's a receive and go and run in space. So where are your players in possession? Like City, for example, they don't have a striker. They don't struggle. Why? Because they have 11 players that are quality in possession. There are like so high quality in possession and recognizing space that they don't need a striker, because all of them will make the runs because they recognize space. Yes, you can say automism and not automism, but they've been trained to do that. Unfortunately, we don't. When we don't even have the quality in possession. Like, I'd rather take the quality in possession first and then the runs later, because you will control the game for 90 minutes. And then maybe scruff chances, yes, if you're not trained to make the proper runs in the tight spaces, but at least you'll control the game. If you don't have a lot of players that are quality in possession, then you don't control the games. And you just rely on counterattacks or, in transitional plays and stuff like what we've been doing, really. Our best moments in possessions when we had all our good possession players on the field. If we don't have them on the field, then we cannot control the game. And when we've seen that, even with Ranić, we cannot control the game because who are the two players up top? Marcus Rashford and Cristiano Ronaldo. So it's a shame that he'll leave, because he offers something different, something we need in the modern game, or how the game is played, or how we want to play in the future, at least. As Manchester United, they want to control the game, right? So that type, we need more of him, not less of him. And we're doing the opposite, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it? It's a weird one. I can only assume, the only saving grace for the club is that sort of he's requested to leave. It's not like we're pushing him out the door as such, but
of course.
it sort of swings and roundabouts, isn't it? Still, I'll move on to another player then that's probably leaving at the end of the season. I'll just bring this comment up because it fits in nicely. Discussing the midfield, because we've spoken about it quite a lot, and I thought, they were pretty solid against Norwich from what I saw. They weren't. It's definitely an upwards trajectory that they're going on. So, sort of, if/when Pogba comes back to fitness, we know he likes to drag out injuries occasionally, but sort of he's due back in January. Is there a place for him in this midfield right now? Or does he get into the 2 number 10 spots, or what? Is he a part of this starting lineup?
No, for me, he doesn't get back in. Controversial that may be, but he's never done enough in my mind to warrant a starting place anyway. He is no doubt an excellent footballer. He's good on the eye, and he needs a specific type of player around him to be successful. And when he doesn't have that player, he then overcompensates for that, ends up losing possession, and then turn around, transition. He's way off the pace in terms of getting back. However, any team with a Pogba on his day and on his game playing in it is for the better. Let's be clear about this. Let's not diminish what he's done. But does he fit into a Ranić style system? No. He'd be a passenger in that. Does he fit into Manchester United currently? No. Has he ever fitted into Manchester United? I think that's the bigger question. Has he ever actually fitted into any of the teams that he's played in and become absolutely pivotal? And I think the question to that, the answer to that again is no. And that's not me having a downer on Pogba. We've been accused on this channel of having an agenda against Pogba, and we haven't. I just think he had all good intentions when he came back to the club, and I think he wanted to be a success at the club. But I don't know many fans that would actually turn around and say Pogba's been, the success that is not his price tag that people think. And so for me, I think you've got to cut your losses. He's clearly going to be thinking about the World Cup. And if we're going to get any money, we need to do it in January. But Ranić's got to make a decision whether he sees him as a pivotal point and whether or not he sees him as someone he can rely on more than anything, because I think managers have struggled with being able to rely on Pogba game in, game out, week in, week out. Look, you can say that about any player anyway, because not every player goes in and has an 8 out or a 9 out of 10 every week. It's not possible. But Pogba's not really reaching those heights. He scored some pivotal goals for us over the last couple of seasons, and he's been excellent in only a handful of games. And for me, that's the real key. So I think Ranić would be looking at it. There's absolutely no way that Pogba's agent, i.e. Mr. Riola, is not touting him around and prostituting him around to various clubs. I have a feeling that if PSG came in, I think he'd be off in a shot. I don't think he'd even bat an eyelid. We wouldn't even see him. It'd just be gone. So maybe Real Madrid, but I don't know where. I don't know if there's an appetite from Real Madrid. I don't know if there's an appetite from Juventus to take him back. He's what now, 27, isn't he? 28, something like that.
I think he's 28, yeah.
Yeah, so he's coming into the twilight of his career. He's not a Ronaldo type player. He's not going to play until he's 36 at the very, very highest level. He hasn't got that. I don't think he's actually
injured a lot as well.
He does.
I
don't think he's got that in him. I don't think he's got that in his heart. I don't think he's got that real determination to be able to do that. So I think it's time for us to say goodbye. With regards to Martial, I'm of the opinion, like Abdul, I would do everything I could to keep him because he will compensate Ronaldo perfectly in Ranić's team. So it's not a downer on Pogba at all. Don't anyone come at All for United and say we've got an agenda, because we don't. I think you've got to look at football in general, and that's how I view it.
Well, speaking of like football in general surrounding Pogba, then Abdul, I just want to keep it quick because obviously we don't have much longer. But we speak a lot about the balance of the team and everything. It goes back to what I asked Stu. Would putting Pogba back in this team now that Ranić seems to have got it pretty settled sort of almost disrupt the balance that he's created in a sense?
Yeah, I don't see why not, because whether people acknowledge it or not, if you measure Pogba's output, at least under Oli, not under Jose Mourinho, he's the second highest presser we have behind Fred. He doesn't show it in like his people. I don't know how people see Pogba, maybe because they focus on the defensive attributes they projected on the offensive as well, especially when we're talking about running back. But he's the second highest press, like as a presser after Fred. So that means he works. He works in the final third. There's no question about that. Maybe yes, there is a bit of defensive frailties to him, but then again, he's not really a deep midfielder or a defender, right? And so in that aspect, in what he offers in the final third, I think he would be a great asset to a Ranić team. But that, which is actually forces Ranić to do something that I think he should do, which is push Bruno further up. Because the deeper Bruno gets into the field, the deeper he gets, the more he attempts balls that are completely ridiculous and impossible to play, right? Because he wants to progress the player right away, right? Like if he receives the ball from in our own third and he sees Rashford running 100 yards away from him, he'll attempt that ball right away without thinking. And he attempts it almost in like a non-thinking fashion. So it comes off really looking stupid, looking like an average player, to be honest. So the more and the deeper he is, the more he attempts balls like that. So it affects his game. People come out saying Bruno is completely ineffective in the game. But when you look on the stats sheet, it's like he created 5 chances. But it's like how? Because the moments he was in the final third, he created chances, but most of the time he was in the deep area doing the stupid things. So people, summed up the performances based on the stupid things that he did, not the good things that he did. So from the way I see it, at least, I think if Pogba came back and Sancho retained his place, so Pogba and Sancho behind Bruno Fernandes and maybe a Cristiano Ronaldo or a Rashford, I think that would change the dynamic of the team completely. That would make the team a lot more creative. Yes, reliant on one finisher, but Bruno is a finisher as well. So Bruno does make striker-like runs and runs behind, and he's good at finishing. So you'll get both aspects from Bruno being higher up, and you'll get less stupid decisions from Bruno if he's not that deep. So I think it's a benefit that Pogba comes back into the team. Now, the question, is it a benefit of a lot overall to keep him in the longer term? I don't think so. Over the long period, I don't think it's a benefit to keep. There is a benefit of keeping Pogba. As talented as he is, he's a conundrum right now, especially with the other players that are waiting on the line because they want to get a shot in the team. Whether they complement or not, it's just unfair on them when he's been here for 7 years and we still don't know how to fit him into the team. We're still, you know.
Yeah.
And it's not his fault. It's him and United, both of them. Like him, maybe he should have tried harder. Maybe he should have tried harder, and played himself more or been more available. And on United for not recognizing the talent that they have and building around it, fixing a solid position for him, like a 10, like Bruno, for example. We got Bruno. We immediately knew where Bruno was going to play, and everything ticked around Bruno ever since he came. And for Pogba, we did not do that. His best periods were when Oli came in as interim, post-lockdown. And last season, he was good, generally, for most of after our exit in the Champions League, or even before the last 2 games of our exit in the Champions League. He was good. He was really good for a consistent long period. But again, it was all under Oli because Oli not favored him, but he wanted him to work. He wanted to make a position for him. Like even the left wing position is all for Pogba so that we can get the best out of Pogba. It's not that Rashford was injured, so he just put Pogba there. It's a made position for Pogba so that we can get the benefit of having both Pogba and Bruno there. So yeah, it goes back to wages and what he's asking for, the balance of the team. He's been here 7 years. He's towards the end of his years really. You have Donny van de Beek who's still young and needs a chance. You have other players who are young and still need a chance. And Bruno largely replaced him too, kind of in the team as the head figure, right? So yeah, it's just. It would be good for both of us, for both United and Pogba, to just separate ways at this point.
Yeah, I think it's going to be weird wherever he does inevitably move next. He's sort of a world-class player that's still seen as this enigma. I don't even think clubs know what they'd get if they were to splash out and sign him. So I think that'll be a bit of a weird one next year to keep an eye on. But
he has played some brilliant games for us. I mean, the comeback at City at the Etihad, where he was instrumental in that comeback. That second half was phenomenal.
Also, the 16-17 season, he was a standout player in that season.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
That's because of the way Mourinho set up the midfield. He was allowed to do whatever he wants up in the field, and he had Herrera, he had Fellini, he had these players covering for him. And I think we've only seen the best Pogba, or the Pogba we bought in that 16-17 and the periods in Oli where I mentioned before. And that's it throughout the entire, since we got him back.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah. Anything to add, Stu?
No, I think I think Abdel summed it up. I do kind of like what he was saying about playing Bruno and Pogba behind Ronaldo. I spoke about that, not those two in particular actually, but I spoke about a similar formation in the past, about how I think we'd be a bit more dynamic and a bit more effective. But it's whether Ranić is willing to take that risk on doing that really. And I think within that, if Donny had knuckled down, and I'm talking about if he'd knuckled down and became the player and produce the type of performances we know that he can he would have been able to complement them quite well, and it would have made a nice attacking base. But the problem is Donny's not really taken his chances and fulfilled anything. And I'm a huge Donny fan, as we know, and he's really got to step it up the second half of the season. And if Pogba has one of his games where he looks disinterested and gives the ball away and that, playing that system, we would be cut right open in terms of turnover and transition. But I do like the concept of it. I think it would be ideal. I'd love it, actually. But whether or not that would ever come to fruition, I don't know. I think Raniak's got a decision to make, and it's such a shame.
Yeah, certainly has. It'll probably be the first big one other than appointing a new manager, won't it? But it remains to be seen.
I think so. And I think Pogba himself needs to make a decision, I feel. You know, every summer and every winter, either his brother's spouting off or his agent spouting off, and he never says anything. He just stands around or whatever, and he allows this to happen. And you shouldn't be allowing this to happen. You shouldn't allow your agent to speak for you. You shouldn't allow members of your family to speak for you. You've got to respect the club, and you've got to respect your teammates, and you've got to respect the fans a lot more by coming out and speaking yourself. You know, so. It's one of those. With Martial, I wonder how much is his agent posturing. I really do. I know there's rumours of it Seville, isn't there? Sevilla, where he may go. I think Newcastle wouldn't be the right move for him, but I would prefer him to stay. But how much it's agent posturing on it, I don't know.
Yeah, it remains to be seen. It's going to be a big winter, big summer as well. But I think that is unfortunately all we've got time for. I hate to cut it short, but
I'm sorry, that's my fault, guys.
If Stu decides that we've only got half an hour on the Stu show, then that's the way it has to be.
No.
But yeah,
hey, I thought it was my show, right?
It is.
It's just whoever looks more angry at the time. That's whose show it is. But yeah, I suppose that's the end then. I do have to say, I'm legally obliged to say, stay tuned to the channel tomorrow because we've got a more sort of overall preview for the Newcastle game with considerably less intelligent people. So stay tuned for that one. But yeah, other than that, I think thank you very much to Stu and Abdul for joining me. Thank you very much to everyone who tuned in. Got a lot of viewers and a lot of comments tonight, so I really appreciate all of the support. If you did enjoy, be sure to like and subscribe. Have a very Merry Christmas as well. I certainly won't see any of you before Christmas, so
happy Christmas and New Year, guys. Happy Christmas.
Yeah. Season's greetings and all, and stay
Merry
safe.
Christmas, guys. Happy holidays.
See you all.
Absolutely. But until next time, until probably the new year, we'll see you next time.